something useful from them. So after extracted, yes, it is, because they are very rich actually in the cellulose. Not actually detoxidate, to extract that and the component called cellulose, which I found in algae, and from them to turn into paper. Now, as you might know, cellulose is the main component for making paper. And companies, industries, countries are making paper out of wood. Wood is rich also. Yes, exactly. So instead of taking the woods which are vital for our health, are producing the oxygen that we need, why not take excessive algae from the lake, who are also disrupting the ecosystem, and produce paper? This is like killing two birds with one stone. So I set to try and collected algae. I ran a couple of experiments. First, I divided them into two samples. The reason why I divided them into two samples was because I wanted to try to pursue two different approaches. Firstly, I refined them, I washed them, so in case of the sand rock is there, I wanted to eliminate everything.
You have been doing all of this alone?
Yes, alone. I actually had a lot of help from my friend, this is Juta, but the idea and the initiation of this project, research project, was my own. I also got assistance from the lab equipments by the mentor of my school, Tamer Salko, but everything, the idea was mine, and to help the ecosystem. So as I said, I divided them into two parts, and I wanted to whiten them, to make them bright. So after you make it bright, you can write on the paper. I tried with them multiple times and I failed. As you might see here, this is not actually a paper, right? The reason why I failed is because I used hydrochloric acid, and that disposed the cell membrane. Cell membrane is where cellulose is located, and hydrochloric acid is high on acidity. It has high acidity, and it cut the algae and it didn't form like a paper. So I changed the hydrochloric acid with something whitener. I went to detergents, strong detergents, and one of them is varikina, as you might know here. Besides that, exactly. Except that I also used hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, that is also known as a bleaching agent, and I thought it would work with those. To make the algae stronger, to make them compatible so that it can be written on, I also extracted the white of the egg. The white of the egg, as you might know, it has the proteins and the fatty materials to be able to stick the algae. After that, we washed the water that was initially on the algae. After washing the algae, we stirred on the muslin paper, like this one, to be in the shape of the paper. After that, it left the final process, which is the dehydration process. In this process, I went there and took pictures of algae every day. And as you can see, as they started to dehydrate, the water was leaked out and the paper actually started to be transformed. Now, approaching this on two different methods did not only give me paper but also cardboard. Cardboard, or market, is actually more strong than the paper. You can see it. It's not that malleable, you cannot change its structure very much, but it still can be used for packing, for pizza delivery boxes, for everything. On the other hand, the paper that I used from the detergent, it's more malleable, you can see, and it can be written also. Those are anyway extra papers that I did just to re-perform the experiment and show that we can get different results. Then after I did all this experiment, as philosophers say, if you can put a work on one project in your place, you have done good. But if you can put that project to the whole world, then you have done something that is called near perfect. So I tried to research some of the countries, and what astonished me, what pointed to my eye, was that China actually is one of the countries that is consuming most of the trees for paper consumption. As you can see, the graphs are going up, rising for paper consumption and cutting the trees. In the meantime, the same countries, China, Scandinavian country, Germany, United States, are the same countries that actually have problems with algal blooms. Those problems can be solved with one project, two different problems. The algal blooms that are overgrowing, that are producing toxins, and the cutting of the trees could be solved with one project. So I thought of myself, why not try and pursue this method, creating paper of algal blooms, thus not spending too much money on two different problems, and solving two problems with each other.
Two birds with one stone.
Exactly. And I actually researched the paper and its consumption. I saw that paper making, this could also be recycled in the cleaning, then recycling to the pulping, transportation, collection, consumption, and then selling again, which is ecological and ecosystem. I actually love this project because, as you might know nowadays, global warming is at a worst case. The air that we are breathing now is half polluted, and I was really trying to do something to prevent this. So with that intention, I applied to the Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning of North Macedonia, and they were very kind and generous with me by approving the project and also giving me the opportunity to display this project in the United States in New York. I applied in 2 different competitions. I applied in the Global Climate in Africa, in Kenya, and in New York Oswego in Genius Olympiad. In Genius Olympiad, not only that I had opportunity to represent Macedonia in a place from different countries, but I also got the opportunity to meet very good man who was also my judge, Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel is a PhD of cellulose, and he actually loved that much the project from me, so he wanted to continue working with me. Yes, he's from Washington. And
Washington DC or Washington?
Washington DC. But coming in New York, he was coming as a judge. He was judging my project. And as the judges went it, I actually was rewarded with the 3rd place bronze medal in the world, and I actually had the opportunity to wave the flag of Macedonia in front of everybody, which is one of my life-changing experiences.
What is the next step?
Next step is
Not for you, but for this project.
for this project, I really want to see it implemented in Macedonia, and why not further elaborate and further find different ways of doing. Now, algae is one way of producing paper, but there are a couple and way different projects that we can produce paper. Let's take rice. Rice, starch of the rice, which we burn that, we can also produce paper from it. But again, the algae and the lake that they were contaminating on was my main goal. And as you know, as the climate is rising and it's worsening the case, I think having an opportunity to make a small change.
Yes. To preserve the trees and not to cut them.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
tell me, what do you think, what is the ratio? How many algae you do need to produce, for example, 1 page
Exactly.
of paper? Or maybe some
I
1 square
actually-
meter of cardboard.
Yes. When I was doing my research, I actually collected algae and measured them in a beaker. By measuring the beaker, I got the idea that from 200 algae, 300 grams of algae, I could produce 2 papers. But the point is, depending on the paper. Now, if you need to produce cardboard, of course you're gonna need more algae. But if you want to produce paper, you could need less algae.
The total is what's more than 20 or 200 grams?
200 grams for 1 page. 1 or 2 pages, depending on the size. Now, a good point is to know that all this experiment I did on a laboratory, which is for beginners. I had only 2 eprouvettes and 1 beaker to do. But imagine if this project could be implemented on big laboratories with professionals, with PhDs of this project, then for sure I'm 100% that not only that algae would be more efficient and more better for use, but it will also have more quantity over quality.
Of course. Excellent. Congratulations on your 3rd place in the United States.
New York.
Maybe next year, maybe you should apply for the state fund for innovations.
I'm trying to,
Did you try
but
that?
I have thought about it, but lately I'm busy because I'm trying to apply to European and United States colleges for my further, because I'm 4th year now, senior year,
You're in the final.
and I'm kind of busy with taking SAT, TOEFL, those requirements for the future colleges. But sure, definitely, this research project and the opportunity to have to change the world and decrease the global warming is one of my goals.
What is your focus, speaking about the faculties in
Uh,
Europe or United States?
My
Where
focus,
apply?
it is actually to study biochemistry, because since birth I've loved chemistry. From the school that I started, I've loved chemistry. And actually I'm more into American colleges for the reason that not only you can conduct research projects with the teachers there, but you actually can internships with the colleges. For example, in your second year, that does mean that if you are in the 2nd year, you could actually apply to a certain job as a work experience as a youngster, but also get funding and counting that as credits for your college.
Teaching and working in the same time. And
Exactly. Yes.
getting finances for your projects.
Some people say, and I'm of that idea
Two
that
birds with 1 stone.
practicing something that you love is easier to study, right? It's easier to study.
Wish you all the best in that. application process because it's strenuous and difficult, it's long.
Exactly.
And, but if you fail, you will succeed.
I also failed for this project many times. As you might see this one, I failed. I didn't get algae that I wanted. Sometimes the dehydration process didn't go. But the point is that if you are persistent enough, if you really want to do a change, you will find.
To get to this final result?
How much time did it get to you?
From this first failed attempt to the final product.
Well, it actually took me 1 month and a half because I had to research, to experiment, to consult with my teachers.
It was not too long.
It's not too long, but again, after every lesson I was needed to go to laboratory because if you left the algae 1 day or 2 days without the right eye keeping on them, they could gain microorganisms which could eat the cellulose of algae, therefore destroy its properties. So it had to be continuously on supervision.
Kažem sam ulio kako ju utrkuješ algite. За да ги користиш у експеримент, мора да ги ликвидираш.
Само страшните алги, не добрите.